your friends are, don't you? Are you recording?
I am.
You are. Okay, I've been tasked with doing a demo outside the Tate Modern. It's a place we used to visit quite a lot back in the day when we were doing light and land tutorials. And I spent quite a lot of time shooting the birches. My ideas and thinking has moved on a little bit since then, so I thought it might be instructive to come back and try and shoot them again, but using perhaps different ideas that have been developed in those years. Now, Tate Modern is surrounded by silver birches. Not all of them, I think, are suitable for multiple exposure technique. And the issue with most of them, and I have to say the light has changed now. About an hour ago, the sun was out, and so the white of the bark was really vibrant. Now it's less so, but that's fine. But most of them have got a really busy background. So no matter how contrasty it is, the light bark against a darker background, if there's a whole load of stuff going on in the background, it's going to make it quite difficult to get some sort of clean, interesting composition, because there's all this sort of detritus, added to which there's this fencing stuff going on. So everything down there and along here has got the same issue of people behind in white t-shirts, so that's all going to crowd in and just create chaos. Whereas the silver birch down there, they're against a nice, clean, dark hedge, which hopefully will lend itself to either bright mode or dark mode. But what I want to do is try it in additive mode, because the last time I shot them I wasn't using additive, so I just want to see what's going to happen. My experience is that additive mode tends to work better when the sun's out, so already I'm making excuses for what's going to be an absolute calamity. Okay, walk this way. Put that on the floor. Are we on? Right. Okay, so these have got a really nice shape. It's a tidy cluster without too much detritus crowding in. Very contrasty. The only issue might be that light there with a white rectangle, which would be repeated in bright mode. Don't necessarily want. The other issue I've got is I've got a 70-300 on. I didn't bring the lens, which is 28mm, so I can't. It's probably going to be a sort of telephoto shot. I can't walk backwards too far because there are people sitting behind us. So I'm kind of stuck with this. The light is just changing, which is quite nice. I said I was going to shoot it in additive mode, and I am, but I might just start in bright mode just to sort of get back into the swing of things, because obviously in bright mode we know that the bright trunks are going to repeat. In dark mode, the darks are going to cut in. What I do now that I wasn't perhaps doing when I used to work with light and land up here, is mixing blend modes, so picking up an image from my card that was, for example, taken in bright mode, then overlaying a dark image on top. I hadn't sort of discovered that trick then, so it'd be interesting to see what happens then. My thought is that I could create a nice sort of confusion of white branches, save that image, and then change the blend mode to darken and cut in with some dark shapes. How well that will work remains to be seen. So that's what my thinking is. The light has gone again, you see, so. And obviously we've now got this back button where I can sort of see where I'm putting the next image, so really it should make the job easier. And because I'm in bright mode, I'm going to underexpose the first few shots, because once I've laid down my images, I can only go brighter and brighter and brighter. So if the first image is correctly exposed, those whites are going to be fairly dominant, and I can only overlay something that's brighter still. So if I underexpose it, it gives me a bit more flexibility. So I've taken 2 shots there, but my feeling is that's a little bit brighter than I wanted it to be. So I'm going to shoot it again because that's only 2 shots and I can only get brighter and brighter. I wanted to lay down a little bit more of this darker background texture, so I'm going to start again. I'll keep that, but I'm going to start again and underexpose a little bit more for the first shot. And obviously the exposure is going to really change depending on where my sensor takes the reading from. It takes the reading from the dark part. It's probably going to end up overexposed, so I have to be very careful about where the sensor is taking the reading. Okay, so we've now got the situation where the light has come out, the sun's come out, and the sort of soft shapes that I was getting have been replaced by white freckles because that's the sunlight on the silver birches, and that's kind of not what I was looking for. So I'm going to go back in again because the sun has now disappeared and give it another go. The trouble with the harsh sunlight, harsh highlights, when you're in bright mode, they just get repeated as sharp blocks of light, and I don't know, I find it a struggle to work with that. So let's try it again quickly whilst the sun's out. Go on, rather. So if I continue at the moment, I'm just going to have to accept the fact I'm going to get some very bright areas that I can't do anything with. I think the clouds might come over again in a moment. And my feeling is that these bright highlights are not going to matter so much in additive mode. Because additive mode is not quite so sharp and abstract and aggressive. It's going to render those highlights in a much softer way, so I think maybe I'll save that and go into additive mode for the time being. And take a series of shots and see what I get. Obviously in additive mode, it's going to happen. The sun's going to disappear.
It's a lovely day for you, isn't it? Enjoy.
Anyway, let's continue with additive mode. I've got it underexposed because the camera is not taking account of my exposure. It's just letting more and more light hit the sensor. So as I go through the sequence, it's just going to get brighter and brighter and brighter. So I've got it underexposed as much as my camera will allow me to. So I don't mind that. There's 3 shots there that I've saved. I just and I managed to get quite a slow shutter speed for the first couple of images. So I created some blur that's coming out, and then I kept the camera still and I've laid down something a little bit sharper, a little bit more defined for the next image. So that's 3 exposures in additive mode. So there's obviously we can see the silver birches, but I've managed to create some blur, some ICM, if you like, behind. And I could have done that in any of the blend modes, obviously. I chose to go into additive because the sun had come out and the highlights were just a little bit too definite, really.
Face.
And obviously additive mode is going to make them softer, so I'll probably carry on with that for the time being. What I'm going to do, I saved that because I quite like the shapes and I quite like the blur, but I'm going to go in and do it again, and then I want to overlay that image with a dark blend mode to try to cut into some of the bright. So I'll probably take more shots in the sequence, so it's going to get progressively brighter, then I will save it, then I'll pick up that base file, go into dark mode, put back some darks. What I might even do actually is go into burst mode, so continuous shooting, just shoot off a sequence in additive with my exposure compensation all the way, to the left. See what happens. Oh my God! Sorry. I don't even think I can work with that to start again. So that's given me, because I managed to get some blur in as well. It's not particularly sharp, it's not particularly defined, but you can see it's getting brighter and brighter. So I'm now going to take that as a base image, see what happens if I put something on top of it. And now when I go in, I'm going to zoom in much closer because I want to get a strong angle of black, so a strong triangle of black to overlay, just to bring in some abstraction. I've also got some interesting colours in there. I don't quite know where they've come from. There's some sort of purples and indigos and greens, which is quite interesting. So I'm going to take it off continuous shooting, get onto dark. And now I'm really looking at composition. I want to see how it overlays. Obviously, all of that dark area is going to overlay any detail that I've got, so I want to try and fill up the frame and find a composition where there is at least a reasonable amount of light. All the time I'm playing with my exposure compensation to see, whilst I'm pressing this button, to see how much the darks that are being laid down are going to overlay on top of what is already existing. And I can control that with my exposure compensation. If I increase the exposure, i.e. a longer shutter speed, then more of what is underneath is going to show through. But if I have a much faster shutter speed, it's going to be very, very dark. That's sort of cut in over the top of some of the blur that's gone down before. It hasn't really given me the detail that I want, and the reason for that is the base file, there was too much blur. I think I should have kept the camera more still when I was doing my burst mode. That is to say, also have a slightly faster shutter speed. I was trying to get some blur, but of course I did the whole sequence blurred, and that hasn't given me what I really want, is some fine detail where those trunks are. I want some of that to show through, so I shall start again in burst mode and see what happens. Continue shooting. I'm just going to take that base file. And I think I'm going to put one shot in average mode over the top. Go out of continuous shooting. I'm going to zoom in to try and find some of the texture on the trunk that is pleasing.
No, they weren't. No, that was the one way. Yeah, that's the one.
I'm just going to take another shot because that was blurred. Too much, so let's just save that. So I've managed to get some green in there and I've got some texture in there. It's busier than I want, but I'm hoping now I can go in and put some dark over the top just to try to refine the composition. I'm going to try and change the white balance, but I think in dark mode I tend not to like the colours that are generated when you change the white balance. But that's a personal thing. I'm just going to take it off again.
Yes, I have.
So that was sort of more what I was trying to achieve. I managed to overlay some of the texture from the previous image, or at least it remains where the white trunks are, but the black, because I'm in dark mode, the black has cut out quite nice area of negative space. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go back to bright mode. Still got sun out actually, so no, I probably won't do that. Let's just save that. Going again with dark mode, I think, and change the white balance. See what happens. So change the white balance to 96,000 Kelvin, so it's quite warm. And now I've managed to get a little bit of colour in there. The composition is a little bit more concise. There's some detail here. So I will probably save that and just go back in and keep doing the same thing. I now know that I'm quite happy with the way the white balance looks. Composition needs a little bit of work. I feel that I need to go in and take the base image again, so that's another burst mode, multiple exposure. This time perhaps increasing my ISO a bit, because it's very dark. And just keep working that recipe until I feel that it's, something is happening. But I quite like, there are elements of that image that are quite appealing to me. I like the colours and the textures in the branch. The composition is okay, but I think I can improve on that a little bit. What I might do first is pick that one up and just try putting something over the top in bright mode. See what happens. Shoot it again because it's a bit blurred. So you can see I can just slowly bring back a little bit more detail. I don't know if you can see. I do that before and the after. So all that's gone on top is just a little bit of a there's a bit of branch there, a little bit of leaf in the top. So I'm now thinking, what about if I try the same thing but take the white balance back to normal? See what happens if I do that. So I'm just going to save that. So although there's obvious repetition there, which I don't really like, I quite like the way the colours have been laid down and the tones have been laid down. And this is absolutely not a masterpiece or a finished piece of work, but it's just trying to explain what my thinking is, and I would spend time refining that recipe. To see where I could take it. The dappled light has given me quite a nice effect, in fact. So I'd work with that just to see where I go with it.